All right, so back here on the 1978 Toyota pickup, and got the head on there and torqued down. So, getting the springs in place, I eventually found like an okay way to do it. It's still harder than I had ever done springs before, but the gap here that you have to work with around the keepers in the hole is not great. And so I would wheel down the cap to just be able to get one side in, and then I'd have to wheel it up a little bit in order to get that one cap, that one keeper captured, and then I'd get the other one in and it would not go. So then I would just take a little tiny screwdriver and I would try to push it in like that. And so it was the only way that I could get it to work, but they're all in. Super time consuming, but that's in there. ARP stud kit is in place, and then you see all my marks on there for the torque order for all of that. So got all those torqued down. Spec on the packaging and what I can tell online is 80 foot-pounds, and so did that in 3 increments to get up to 80. They all felt totally fine, so no weird slipping or whatever, so they all felt good. One thing that I did have to do that was super tedious was those washers down there have like a groove side on them, and that's supposed to bite into the aluminum, and so I had to clean that out real well. So they were saying you can't have any sort of gunk or whatever in between those washers and the head, and so that was getting Q-tips and stuff and trying to clean out the bottom of it was sort of tedious, but whatever. Those are all in. It was a 1/2 inch, and then they're 12 point instead of a regular 6 point. And then you see how that color's different. I actually had to grind down this deep socket in order to get it to fit for a couple of them. So this one here was super tight and it would not get in there. And so I had to grind it down. This number 5 over here also was super tight and it wouldn't get lined up. Also had to use a deep socket because the post that sticks up around the washer, around the nut, was just getting in the way. So that bolt that comes through there, just a standard socket was not fitting on there. So had to use a deep one, and the deep ones are typically thicker than a regular socket, and so had to grind that down to get it to fit. But those are all torqued in place now, so that's looking pretty good. So the next thing will be to get, there's all the pieces parts that go on top of these caps. So there's a retainer that goes over the top of it, a spacer, and then the cam goes across, and then you got all the caps for all of the cams. Before I do that, I got to get my pulley back on and get this thing on TDC, so that way when I set all of those cams and everything in place, I can make sure that that everything's at top dead center, and then I can get the wheels and everything on, like, pointed in the right direction and everything. So we'll see what ends up happening. Sort of like a strange no man's land with this, where obviously I want to clean up the engine block, but I didn't want to be like spraying paint or anything on that while it was open. And so I wanted to get the head on it, and then I want to get the oil pan on it. But now that the head's on it, I obviously don't want to be painting where all the cams are at, so I got to get the cam on. And in order to get the cam on, I got to get the pulley and TDC and belt on and all that other stuff. So, it's sort of like I got to assemble this enough to seal it, and then that way I'll feel comfortable getting, aggressive with cleaning and everything on all that other stuff. Taping over this sort of thing's not a big deal. I don't mind a little bit of tape over the top of the intake. A little bit of tape, over the top of the exhaust is not a big deal. But like having the whole head and pistons and everything exposed, even with tape, I just wasn't feeling comfortable about that. Same thing with the bottom. Like, I just had the pan in place, and it wasn't sealed or anything. And so I kind of want to get the whole engine sealed up before I start making any decisions on how I'm, what kind of paint scheme I'm going to go with. Certainly the easiest thing is to just like, get it all cleaned and then just spray it one color. But I'm going to have all kinds of like aluminum bits on here. And, I ordered a new oil pump and water pump and everything. And it's like, should I paint all that? I don't know. So I'm going to keep working on this to get this sealed up. And after everything's sealed up and I feel better about getting aggressive with cleaning and wire brushing and everything, I'll make a decision on, what I end up doing for paint scheme. So, all right, well, get more of the head assembled. So catch you on the next one. Thanks.